So what's the first thing you did this morning? I bet it wasn't open up some brandy. Give the cakes a little feed. Welcome to Baking with Frank. Frank Rush was a baker at the turn of the 20th century at the Uffelman Baking Company in Cincinnati, and then at his own bakery in Newport, Kentucky. Frank was also my great-grandfather. Through his handwritten batch-sized recipe book, I'm breaking down his recipes and getting to know him better. I'm Tom Mattingly, and this is Baking with Frank. Welcome back to Baking with Frank. So before we just get there and forget about it, why don't you go ahead right now and hit the like and follow buttons so you can see what Frank's doing all the time. Because today we're back on a multi-day excursion with Frank using one of his original recipes for Springerle. Now, I didn't know what Springerle was. I assumed it was something I wouldn't enjoy. But I've learned that these funny little rolling pins, which there was quite the ordeal to find this, let me just tell you, are Springerle pins, which make individual cookies. So we're going to make those today. Why is it a multi-day process? Well, you make the dough and then you let the dough sit overnight so that it forms a film that then keeps the dough white. That doesn't sound that appetizing, but we're going to trust on this one. And in some cases, people actually paint these cookies. We're not going to do that. All right, so into the, let me show you what we've got going on here. Like I think you're psychic or something. Into the big beautiful bowl here. We're going to put 2 eggs, whole eggs, fresh from Costco, and we're going to whip these for quite a while. So everything that I've seen, because well, there you go. First you attach the bowl. Not everyone knows that. Everything that I've seen, because why am I talking to the thing here? Everything that I've seen says that you need to whip these for 20 minutes or until it's double in size. So I'm going to do that on my own. Spare you the noise. Okay, so we're at probably 16 minutes, but as you can see, the eggs have more than doubled in size. We've averted crisis while you were gone. I have put granulated sugar rather than powdered sugar. And while Frank's recipe does not specify because, well, you know, Frank don't specify nothing, we're going to use the powdered sugar that I saw in the other recipes. There's also a slight modification here of butter because this, when I read through, just seemed really, really dry, and every other recipe has butter in it. So we are going to start out by adding in the powder but a little bit of granulated sugar into the eggs. So we've got 2 eggs here and a ½ pound of powdered sugar, a stick of butter, a ½ teaspoon, I'm going to do a glug of your favorite flavoring. Traditional is anise. I don't like anise. So we're going to do almond, because you know I like almond. You might have also used bourbon. But you can use vanilla or peppermint or whatever the heck you want. 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking powder, which I've just put in the flour. Now, all of the other recipes, and literally all of the other recipes, here, talk to me. Literally all of the other recipes said to use baking ammonia, and we're just not going back there. All right, so sugar's just about there. Getting there. I'm making a lot of noise. course, you stopped right where the sugar was left over. But we're gonna make it work. All right. So into this, I'm going to add the almond extract. And as noted, we're going to put a glug in. There's the glug. Probably need more of that. And I'm going to put the butter in. Now, my better half gave the theory that, for Frank, these might have been decorations. There's another recipe that clearly are decorations. We'll go into that before Christmas comes up, because I've been dying to do this one. But that these might have just been decorations, hence the butter being left out, which would make it then easier for them being the cookies, to go on a string. So, don't know if that's true. I like the theory. We're putting in butter, because butter is objectively delicious. And we're going to switch over to the paddle, because it's been bad. I don't know if you can hear that rain behind me, but it is pouring here in Cincinnati, Ohio. All right, move that back up. Get this started. And in goes the flour. So we'll keep this going until it's all incorporated. And then we'll have some fun. So, in an epic return from the grave story, Frank showed me that no, he didn't really want butter in there. So I added about another quarter pound of cake flour to balance it out a little bit. Sorry, Frank. My bad. We're gonna try to roll this out. Push down here. Make sure you can see everything that's going on, because it's gonna be super exciting. So as you can see, it's still a little gloopy. Okay, a lot gloopy. But we're gonna get it out of there. There you go. So, going to make that something we can work with. Get out old Mr. Rolling Pin. We're going to roll this out to, I'm going to say, I don't know, 1/4 inch thick, maybe. It's not a 1/2 inch. We're going to roll it out to about there. I'm going to take this, and yes, the only one I could find did not have a handle. But I'm going to press in fairly hard. And by golly, look at that. It's making shapes. I think it'll work just as well. Still cuts, just like that. Slide that out of the way. Sacrifice that row. Get that out of the way. So there's much speculation in my household as to what each one of these things were. So that now looks like cherries, and that looks like more cherries. There's a cross. That looks like a carrot. That might be a bird if the bird was feeling not... Well, we're not going to go any further with that. Okay, those aren't going to make it. So they'll go over here. Same thing with those. So they'll go over here. I'm going to start down here because it makes me happier. This, I remember this box most of my life. These are some of Mom's cutters. And these are ones that I actually don't remember her using. I have ones that she was using, but these actually make impressions, so I thought they would be better for this. So we're going to give them a shot. Hey, look at that. Look at that. I like that. It would be better if I, put them in some flour. Come on, Mr. Snowman. Yeah. Let's try our little star thingy here. Nope, that one didn't do so well. Frank is somewhere looking down, just shaking his head. What is this fool doing with my recipe? All right, so these dry overnight and they go in the oven. All right. Okay, new day, new shirt. We have been letting our Springerle sit overnight so that they could dry. The theory being that that thing gives them a skin or a film or a, we'll give what you call it, around them that helps them stay lighter in color. And as you can see, you remember how soft the dough was yesterday. That's pretty good. So, and in the middle of the bottom, so the top is very dry, middle of the bottom is still a little moist because they're supposed to be moist inside. So we're going to go in the oven at 325 for 12 to 15 minutes, see where we get. Take it from there. Okay, so we ended up going 14 minutes just to make sure that everything was cooked and lightly brown on the bottom, very pale on top. And as I thought, now that we're cooked, you can start to see the designs a little bit more. Here's a guy falling down, and here's your Christmas knockers. Here's a carrot. Here's an upside down carrot. Here's, I'm not sure what that is. But this is clearly Christmas tree, and this is clearly snowman, and this is clearly star, because those are the ones that Mom did. So those are the ones we're gonna try. So let's give it a run. Again, lightly pale on top. They smell good. They are very lightly flavored. I can imagine them as anise. I don't want to because I don't like anise. The almond is really nice. I can also imagine them with bourbon. I think that would be very nice. They're kind of like a Spritz cookie, which if you don't know that, Crown Princess Victoria, I'm looking at you. Swedish, lightly flavored almond. These are pretty good. I don't know that I would do the roller again because that seemed to be the biggest problem for me, but that's user error, frankly. But I'd make these again. Tasty.